This is going to be a short yoga session, and I'm calling it a yoga session because it will include more aspects of the yoga practice than solely the asana movement practice. It will also cover some of the philosophical pieces of it. This particular session will be focused primarily on one of the yamas, so that first limb of yoga, of the philosophical parts of yoga, and that is called Brahmacharya. Often in our direct translations, we think of Brahmacharya as moderation. That is somewhat accurate, and yet also, at least in my experience, it's pretty limited. And moderation is extremely subjective, as is most things around philosophy. It's very much connected to our lived experiences and our identities, and that's as it should be. However, I will offer a few other aspects of what Brahmacharya may entail that have been a little bit more accessible for me and hopefully can help to broaden the access points to living with Brahmacharya in our lives. So moderation, primarily the point is that we would moderate our life, our actions, our being to really emphasize the balance of our vital life force. Vital life force in yoga being the pran or the prana, and sometimes we hear it called chi from traditional Chinese medicine. For westernized mindsets, a lot of times we're thinking about it in regards to how much energy we feel we have capacity to live our purpose and the life that is meant for us to live. And so for me, a couple other words that have been really helpful is to think of Brahmacharya in regards to equanimity. So, how much am I able to feel balanced internally and have some perspective, discernment around life's happenings, and keep my mental, emotional, physical, and energetic and spiritual energies and approaches to not be so connected to only what the narratives that my mind might want to spin about something that I could perceive as good, bad, right, wrong, hard, or easy, all of those judgment calls. The second way that it has been really, really helpful for me in the last couple of years the most is to think of it in terms of internal coherence. And this is a practice where we can utilize breath to modulate our energy, because the breath can inform the heart. The heart sends messages to the brain. The brain sends those messages out through the nervous system and the endocrine system. And that in turn then indicates system-wide through all the internal organs, the energy levels in the body, the nervous system, the mindsets, the belief systems, whether we are coherent internally or incoherent. And an incoherent state means the heart rate is really jagged and dysregulated, really choppy and generally faster heart rate, whereas a coherent heart rate tends to be eased and smoothed and more rhythmic and slower. And so in yoga practices, often we think about using pranayama practices as breath practices, but that's really a limited way to see it, because pranayama is that vital life force. It's not only the breath, but we can use the breath to modulate the energy and the vital life force. And so that's very similar to what these coherence practices do as well. So that's a little brief overview of why we would want to use that information to inform what we do in a movement practice. This particular sequence, or just movement practice, let's call it, I am curating in a way to help us think about in this current culture that perhaps many in the US or westernized cultures would recognize as being really pretty burdensome, and how that burden impacts our ability to engage in Brahmacharya practices, or to feel like we are existing with Brahmacharya, that balance and moderation and coherence of our vital life force. So think of it in terms of when you are moving into a shape, whatever I am suggesting is only a suggestion. It is an invitation for you to approach that movement in the way that best fits your ability to be equanimous in your mind. So keeping it from going, oh, this is way too hard, or this is way too easy, or I'm bored looking at what's the next shiny thing. Keeping the mind really internalized on what is my internal experience happening here, and how can I bring more equanimity to that experience. And maybe that might be continuing to come back to the breath and building that into inner coherence. So we'll use that as the premise. I am going to invite you to, I'm not going to use a mat today. I'm going to just use the floor. But if you want to use a mat, go ahead, and then find any comfortable position, physical position for your body to do a couple minutes of centering. If you want to lie down, you can be back, side, or belly. If you want to be seated, whatever seated position you want. If you want to be up against a wall, have the back supported along the wall, that would be fine as well. And as we move through these practices, I will be focusing quite a bit on the idea of removing burdens, like especially from off of the shoulders and the upper back, but maybe even feeling like if there's some burdens on the low back, or just feeling overall a burden system. So you go ahead, take your time. I'm going to slide back away from the camera, and you can get yourself set into the position that you would like to have for your 2 to 3 minutes of centering practices. Going to, for today, choose to lie all the way down on my back. That's what's going to be a fit for me. That way I can feel the support of the floor along my spine, and that is sending a message to my nervous system that currently in this environment where I am, and in this position of my physical body, I am about as physically safe as I can be, because I cannot fall. And I don't have anything in my environment that can fall on me. So that right there is relieving a burden of my nervous system. It's releasing a physical burden, because all of the muscles along the spine and the backside of my body that have been holding me upright since I got out of bed this morning no longer have to be engaged. They can completely release and let go. As well, feeling the weight of my skull heavy against the floor, for me, engages a sense of releasing a mental burden, because right now, this tells my nervous system and my body it's okay for my brain to rest. You choose what works best for you. As you get settled in, bring the attention to the breath. Let it flow in. Let it release out through the nose if that's available to you. And as much as is available to you, notice how it feels to gently, slowly let the inhale come in through the nose at a little bit slower pace. And then let it automatically flow into your exhale. And extend that exhale just a count or two longer than the inhale. Continue that at your pace. And if it feels approachable for you, another aspect of this can be to start to imagine that the inhale is a gentle wave, like a gentle ripple at the edge of a lake shore, washing over the heart as it flows into the lungs. And then the exhale is a gentle wave washing out over the heart. Imagine that with each breath in and each breath out, the heart is getting that soothing wash of breath. Inhaling and exhaling. It may even be accessible for some of us, some of the time at least, to begin to notice that we can either physically feel or energetically sense the beat of the heart as we slow this breath and let it wash over the heart. And if that's not your experience at this moment, that's totally fine. Make yourself focused on the breath for now. Going to take 2 to 3 more rounds of this at your pace. Then if your eyes have been closed, gently blink them open, whichever position you're in. If you have been in any position other than lying flat on your back, if lying flat on your back is accessible to you today, I'm going to invite you to take this position where I'm demoing right now. Make your way there slowly and gently. If this is not a good fit for you, for whatever reason, you can do the same things that I'm doing in a seated position, whether it's in a chair or on the floor. Also, if vertigo is a concern for lying flat on your back for you, oftentimes having something behind the back of the skull so that the head is slightly lifted occasionally can help that for some folks and relieve that sensation of vertigo. If that's not your situation, then you can do this seated. So when we did that lengthened breath, the washing over the heart with the breath, that is sending a message to the heart rate that it can slow down and become more rhythmic, like we talked about at the beginning. The heart sends more messages to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. So the heart is telling the brain with that slower, more rhythmic, eased heart rate that survival mechanism at the base of the brain can slow down. It can relax and take a break, which automatically allows more of the prefrontal cortex to come online, sending messages throughout the nervous system and the endocrine system that in this moment, I can rest, I can relax, I can be in a state of more equanimity, feeling and or coherence. Okay, so from here, I'm going to invite you to interlace the fingers together in front of you. Flip the palms up towards the ceiling or just flip the palms away from the chest. And then pull the shoulder blades, rounding them up towards the collarbones. If it's comfortable in your shoulder, you can start to bring those hands either over the head if you're seated or back towards the floor if you're on your back. Your shoulder mobility will depend on how far that is appropriate and comfortable for you. And remember, we're talking about moderation here. We're not pushing this to the furthest extension. Inhaling, you're going to bring those hands back up or If you're seated, back in front of the chest. Release the fingers, shake out the wrists and the palms. And then from here, you have two choices. You can either bring those hands back over the head, if that's good for your shoulders. If it's not, you're just going to reach both arms over to the left side of the body. I'm going to keep my hands above my head. It's feeling good right now in my shoulder blades and shoulders and then across the chest. Then I'm going to bring the hands more towards the left side. So I'm making an extension between my armpit to the top of my right hip. To increase that extension, I'm going to move my left foot out to the left side a little bit and then cross my right ankle over it. So if you're on the mat, you're just going to move the left foot maybe to that left edge of the mat, cross your right ankle over. If that's too much extension, too much sensation in the right side body and along the outer, from the outer hip on the right side all the way down the leg, you're just going to move those legs back towards center a little bit, or maybe you move the arms back towards center. So making this shape that's a little bit like a banana, or if you're seated, it's a side bend. Hold and breathe. Thinking about all of the spaces between the side ribs on the right side of the body, because those spaces tend to get kind of compressed together. So as we open them up, we're bringing in that sensation of more spaciousness where the vital life force can continue to flow. Take another inhale here. Exhale, come back to center. Center the legs, uncross the ankles if they're crossed. Now, just because it worked one way in the first side might not mean that it's going to be exactly the same on the second side. So if you need to move your arms either above your head or across your chest instead of what you did the first time, go ahead and do so. This time we're going to take that banana shape over to the right side. So we're opening up all of that outer side body on the left side now. Thinking again about the rib cage on the left side of the body and imagining with each inhale, those side ribs are expanding just a little bit wider, creating more room for the lungs to expand with each next breath. Inhale back to center, uncross the legs, take a long full body stretch or whatever it is good for you in the shoulders to release along that. You're going to plant the feet on the floor if you're on your back. Let the knees fall over to one side as you come into what is called fetal position, just lying on your side just for a breath. And then eventually you'll inhale, press the floor away from you and come up to a seated position. In your seated position now, you can do cross-legged. You can have bottoms of the feet together, legs extended. You can be in a chair, whatever works best for you. In your seated position now, you're going to take your left hand, inhale, bring it to the right knee. Exhale, right hand comes either to the right hip or back behind the spine. Take a gentle twist without forcing. Again, we're being moderate with this. We're not asking the body to go deeper than it's ready to. And then inhale, back to center. Pause on the exhale. Reverse it to the other side. Right hand to left knee. Left hand comes back to the position that feels best for this twist. And pause. And then inhale, unwind all of that. Come back to center. Let the exhale flow. From here, we're going to make our way to a standing position. So I'm going to offer a few different options. You might know what works best for you. And so you're going to go ahead and take that right now. One option is to just swing the legs around to one side, come up to hands and knees, and then all the way up into a standing position. Another option is to plant the feet. Knees are up to the ceiling. You're going to use your hands or not use your hands depending on what works best in your body. Again, this is about moderation and knowing your body's signals. And you're just going to push to your feet. Maybe you pause here in this really low, deep squat. Maybe you start to press up, or maybe you use your hands to press up and you come up to a stand. Finding the feet underneath the hip bones, stabilized, balanced body and nervous system coming into coherence and feeling more equanimity. Opening up across the shoulders, broadening the chest. Take an inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, soften the knees, dive yourself forward, and let yourself hang in this forward fold. Thinking about keeping a substantial bend in the knees if that feels better in your hamstring and low back. You, again, are going to need to listen to the cues of your body. Inhale, hands to the shins, extend the spine long. And then exhale, deep forward fold. Let the head hang heavy. Again, thinking about releasing those burdens, right? So maybe in this position, you can get that visual of burdens sliding off the back from the shoulders down into the ground. Or anything that's burdening your mind, just dumping out of your head into the floor. And then planting the hands. You're going to either step, walk, or perhaps gentle hop coming into a plank position, knowing that knees down plank or tabletop is perhaps the most beneficial for you, keeping your vital life force as balanced as possible. If you want knees off the floor, you can go into that. So you're going to take an inhale here. And then as you exhale, either knees down or knees up, you're going to shift forward a bit, squeeze the elbows into the rib cage, lower all the way down to the floor. If you were in tabletop, you can do the same thing, just sliding the knees back, coming all the way down to the floor. On your next inhale, you're either going to just stay where you are, if that's enough of sensation of a back extension, or you're going to lift the chin, lift the chest away from the floor, any amount. Exhale, lower down, tuck the toes into the floor, push the floor away, either coming through tabletop or moving right directly into downward facing dog. Hold here. And again, this could be a position that works for you to imagine burdens sliding off from the hips all the way along the spine, off the shoulders, out the head, into the earth. It also is a really beneficial position for many bodies to get an opening along the backside of the body that often gets compressed. If this does not feel good from you, you're going to drop the knees, come into tabletop. From there, you can reach the hands forward. Notice how it feels to come into puppy dog pose, or drop the hips all the way down to the heels, come into child's pose, either resting the head on the floor, resting the head on the hands, or reaching the arms back towards the feet. Take one more breath in whichever position you have chosen. Then look forward to the hands. You're going to step the right foot forward, landing approximately where the right hand is. Now, for some folks, it actually works better to literally take your right hand and help that foot forward. Or the other thing is drop the left knee, move the right foot forward, and then when you're ready, if you choose, you can lift that left knee again. So this is low lunge. What this does is, I'm going to slide to this side so I can point out on my body part better, helps to open up the front of that left hip flexor. So the left psoas muscle we tend to have a lot of constriction and congestion in our hips from a lot of sitting in this culture. And so if we can lift up that knee or keep the knee on the ground, but energetically imagine opening up that front of the left hip, we're releasing tension, which releases burdens off the body. Take one more breath here. And then on your next inhale, start to lengthen your front leg long. I'm going to slide my back foot a good foot and a half forward. That means I'm narrowing the width of my stance, but at the same time, I'm going to move my right foot out to the right a little bit. So it's on, my right foot's on a right
railroad track, my left foot's on a left railroad track, rather than trying to keep them on a tightrope. I'm going to encourage my right hip to come up and back in space, my left hip to maybe come forward a little bit and down, which will help to even out my sacrum perhaps. Doesn't mean I need to force it, and I can keep a significant bend as much as I need to in my right knee. Now, for some folks, bringing the hands to the floor, absolutely not. So you can do knee, you can do shin, you can do blocks, you can do a chair, anything that you have available to lift that torso up a bit and put a little less pressure and tension on the hamstring and low back. Again, finding what works best for you to keep your energy modulated and moderated. From there, think again, where is it that you might be releasing tension and how that relieves burdens off of the physical body and the energetic body. If you feel you are increasing tension, let's have you move out of this. One more breath here. Soften that front knee, lift the body up. And then from here, you're going to just slide that left foot forward again a little bit. Now I have my left heel up, my toes are on the ground. Torso's lengthened and long. You can stay right here. There's no need to go any further. If you choose, you can turn the left knee out to the left side, land that left heel against the right ankle, or bottom the left foot on the calf. Or you can slide that left foot up a little further, maybe all the way up into the groin if that was what works best for your energy. Once you have your balance stabilized, and you can always use a wall, a shelf next to you, a chair back, anything that you have available to support that balance. Start to notice if you can bring back that heart-centered breathing. Often when we go into balance poses, we want to hold our breath. So we're trying to white knuckle our way into keeping our balance. What that does is it raises the center of gravity and makes it harder to balance. So you want to keep that heart-centered breath eased and flowing, coming back to internal coherence, which builds more stabilization throughout the body for holding balance. So as you come into Vrikshasana, this tree pose, you can do whatever you want with the hands. Hips, heart center, layered over the heart. Maybe you grow branches, whatever works for you. As you come into your tree pose, keeping your gaze steady, keeping your mind steady, keeping your breath steady. All of those aspects help to build steadiness in the body, steadiness in that vital life force, steadiness through equanimity, coherence, and moderation. Last breath here. Exhale, lower it down. Now that was a really lengthy time to hold a balance pose generally for most folks. If that was your experience, go ahead and shake out that right leg. Maybe you shift the hips side to side. Maybe you roll the shoulders, shake out the hands. And then we'll take an inhale. Lift the arms up. As you exhale, let's dive forward into that forward fold. Inhale, half lift, extend the spine long. Exhale, deep bend in the knees, bring the hands down to the ground. From here, you're going to take that step walk or a gentle hop back, or drop the knees, or come into tabletop, whatever you prefer. If you are in tabletop, when we drop all the way down, you can do a cat-cow, you can hang out where you are, or perhaps you go into child's pose. Take one more breath here. Exhale, shift forward, lower down, squeezing elbows into the chest. And then as you inhale this time, maybe you repeat what you did last time, or if you feel like really for you, you're going to release burdens and let the energy flow. If you go up a little higher, you can come into high cobra. Whichever one you've chosen, you're going to exhale, lower down, tuck the toes into the ground, push the floor away, and then either tabletop, child's pose, puppy dog, or downward facing dog. Imagining again those burdens flowing off of you, releasing tension, letting the vital energy force flow. Inhale, look at your hands. As you exhale, this time your left foot's going to go forward. So maybe right now you drop the right knee automatically, swing that left leg up and around, and then either keeping the right knee down or extending that right leg long with the knee off the floor. Thinking about two, a lot of times when I come into this, because we're trying to open up here along the front of the right hip, a lot of times for those that maybe have a little bit more flexibility or mobility in their joints, we like to let that right hip fall forward a bit. Well, not so great for our pelvis and low back always. So maybe even encouraging the right hip to stay, the right side of the pelvis to stay lifted a little bit. That might mean blocks on either side of the front leg would be a better service for you. Also, thinking about scissoring the inner thighs as if you're going to pull scissors together, the inner thigh muscles are pulling together. Now, inhale here. Exhale, lift the hips, slide the back foot forward any amount, and then adjusting that pelvis again if it feels right for you to do so. Maybe left hip up and back, right hip coming forward a little bit. Hands, thigh, shin, blocks, ankle, whatever works best for you. Releasing tension out of the low back. So if that means a deeper bend in that front knee, if that means lifting up and holding the torso higher, do those options. Take one more breath. And then inhale, lift all the way up. Hands can come to the hips if you like, but just hands stay steady. Sliding this time, that right foot forward. Hanging out right here, perfectly fine. Turning right knee out to the right. That might be an option as you lower the heel to the left ankle. Or foot up to the calf. Or foot up higher into the thigh if that feels good for you. Now remember, we held this for a significant time on the other side as we talked through that idea of the steady mind, steady breath, steady balance, steady gaze. If you know that it feels better for you to take a break partway through this hold, you're going to step the right foot down, breath 1 or 2 times, bring it back into the balance pose at whichever position feels better for you at that time. Hold everything steady again. You don't have to hold it the entire time long. Noticing how much the mind wants to take over of either this is too hard, this is too easy, I can't do this. Any of those stories, use the breath, wash it over the heart. Let that slowed heart rate help to adjust the mindset and change the narrative and the thoughts. Last breath here. Exhale, release. Again, might be helpful to shake out that left leg, roll the ankle, shake the shoulders, shake the ankles. Both feet planted. Take an inhale, reach the arms. Exhale, lower the hands down, keep the torso lifted. Come back into equal standing pose, equanimous. Palms might be open towards the front, chest broad with the sternum lifted. Keeping the crown of the head reaching for the sky as the chin stays parallel to the ground. All of the major joints stacked evenly over each other. Last breath here. Exhale. You're going to bring the hands to the tops of the thighs. We're going to make our way down into a seated position. Now, we came up into standing, and I demoed typically a little unusual way to come into a stand that's not necessarily accessible for everybody. So, knowing that, you can come into a forward fold, reach for the ground, come into a seat down on the ground that way. You can have a seat in a chair next to you. You can otherwise bring the hands to the tops of the knees. Then from here, maybe you do a little bit of a cat-cow, noticing if there's been a release of tension and burdens along the spine, where that might feel differently than when you started. And then start to bend a little bit deeper in the knees. If you know already that coming into a real deep low squat's not a fit for you, this is where you want to bring some blocks or chair or hands to the ground. Otherwise, start to lower that seat. Notice how this feels. I'm just kind of keeping my hands broad and wide as I push my knees into my shoulders. Again, opportunity to release some stress and tension that gets caught in that upper back. Lower the seat all the way to the floor if it's not already there. Release the feet and bring those heels, those bottoms of the feet together, outer ankles down to the floor. Reach the arms out wide. As you exhale, bring the hands together. You're going to cross right arm over left. Now, options. You might come into butterfly hug and let the elbows fall down to the chest. You might keep the elbows lifted and bring the backs of the palms together. Maybe you interlace the forearms and bring the fronts of the palms together, coming into eagle arms. None of the choices are better than the others. It's what fits best for you. As you do this, you're going to take now, whether you're in, but it doesn't matter which position you're in, you're going to take an inhale. As you exhale, you're going to round the spine, round the back behind you. So for me, I'm keeping my elbows lifted where they were, maybe bringing the hands away from my forehead a little bit, rounding into the spine. If I'm in butterfly pose, it can be very, very similar. One more breath here. Inhale and lift. Unwind, uncross, release, roll the shoulders. Big wide butterfly wings. Exhale, bring them together. This time left lands on top of right. You can come right into what worked on the first side if you prefer, or you can try something different for the second side. Let your body tell you what it prefers for this side. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, round. Tuck the chin. Release across the upper back. Inhale and lift. Shake it out. Uncross, unwind. Have my feet together. So as I was describing, arms coming out like butterfly wings, we have our knees out like butterfly wings. Baddha Konasana, or butterfly pose, sometimes it's called, bound angle pose. And bring your hands wherever they land. It could be knees, could be shins, could be ankles, could be floor, doesn't matter. You're going to just start to keep, let's start first, feeling the sits bones anchored into the ground. So you have that firm foundation at the bottom of the pelvis. And then imagine, you're not able to see it, so you're just imagining all of the spine. So from the sacrum, tailbone to sacrum, lumbar spine, thoracic spine, cervical spine, all in their gentle, natural curves, lifting so that the crown of the head energetically reaches to the ceiling. Keeping that same natural curves, same extent, lengthened spine, you're going to just start to hinge forward from the hips. Your gaze might start to come out away from the toes a little bit. Maybe the hands are resting. Maybe they're reaching. Maybe they're reaching underneath if that feels accessible and comfortable for you. You're going to pause. You're going to pause when your low back, your outer hip, your groin, any part of your body says, that's enough. That's when you stop. Soon as that happens, just notice, feel it. Take a breath or two. And then after the soft tissues have had a few seconds to acclimate, go ahead, let forehead start to round towards the feet. Breathe. Nice and lengthened inhales and exhales. Now, generally, after a shape has been held anywhere from 30 to 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes, it depends on the body, it depends on the shape. You might notice that there's been a little bit of release of tension in the soft tissues around those joints. Maybe it feels like you have access to go a little bit more. If you don't, we're not going to force it. But if it does feel right, go ahead, take it a little bit more further. And then inhale. Gently start with the head, lifting the chin, and then walking back slowly, one step at a time. All right, now lengthen the legs long. We're going to come onto our back. And I'm going to invite you, there's a couple ways we can do this, but I'm going to invite you to maybe explore if you have a rolled up yoga mat, you could use a blanket or a towel that you can roll into a tube. If you have a yoga bolster, if you have anything that creates a tube shape, go ahead, make that tube shape now. Doesn't have to be very large at all. If you don't have access to anything at all right now, I mean, this could even be a t-shirt rolled up. It could be that thin. If you don't have access to anything right now, you have two other options. I'm going to show those options first before I show the tube option. The first one is we're going to come into a variation of what's called fish pose. So the fingertips, my fingertips are pointing towards my seat. And I'm going to start to lean back, having my chin tucked, land to one elbow and then the next elbow. This might be where I hang out. Now, for some folks, this is not going to be a good fit for your low back and or might feel really like you're increasing tension across your torso, front and back. But let me just continue to show. And then if it's available to you and it's not for everyone, maybe you lift the chin towards the ceiling, let the head hang back and really broaden and open across the collarbones and the chest as you continue to breathe. If that's not a fit for you, another option can be make your way, whatever way is safe and accessible for you, all the way down onto your back. And lift my hips, tuck my arms underneath my back, and then pull my shoulder blades together so I'm lifting my sternum towards the back. You can do all of this similarly seated. So if coming onto your back is not an option, do it in a chair. Just reaching, if you're in a chair, perhaps you're reaching for the chair back behind you or interlacing your hands behind you. Now, tube option, supported fish. You're gonna bring that tube probably to about your tailbone where the sacrum is. And you're gonna lay yourself over it. Now, if your tube is not long enough for you to lay the full length of your spine and still have the back of your skull supported, you're not going to start at the tailbone. You're going to bring it up maybe to mid back and just have the upper back, shoulders, shoulder blades, and the back of the head supported. So play around with that depending on the length of your tube. You do want the back of the head supported about even with the cervical spine and the upper back in this variation because it's a bit more restorative. And also if the head is just hanging, that's a lot of tension and pressure on the neck. And then I'm going to just open my arms back up. I feel like I really want to come into the star pose. So I'm going to extend my legs out, let my ankles release and my toes fall open to the side. Again, opening up all those spaces where we get really compressed and congested, because that's where the tension and the burdens love to accumulate. As I open those spaces up and I become a bit more spacious in the physical tissues, That creates more space for the energy and the vital life force to flow through. 2 more breaths here. And then you have a choice. If this is feeling particularly supportive and restorative and beneficial for you, you're going to stay in this position perhaps for all or most of your final rest. If you would rather go into a different version of your final rest pose, now is the time to transition. That might mean removing the prop from behind your back and coming all the way down onto the ground. It might mean rolling over onto your side or your belly or coming into a seated position. Coming into any variation of a final rest. If it's helpful for your mind to have an anchor, you can invite it to use that heart-centered breathing. The slow wave washing over the heart on the inhale, the gentle wave soothing the heart on the way out on the exhale. Otherwise, if perhaps it's better for your mind to not have to process and just let the breath flow, then that's an option. You choose what works best for you. Continue to maintain your final rest pose, keeping your physical body exactly as you are positioned. Allowing your attention to focus to begin to recognize how much do you feel that you have a bit more internal coherence than when you started. Again, it's not grading it. It's not hating it or rating it as good, bad, right, wrong. You're just noticing. Did anything I do in my physical movement, in my breath practices, in my shifting of my mindset, or in my energy modulation, feel like I released burdens, tension, became access to equanimity and balance feels more available. And it doesn't mean that this all happened in the last few minutes. So perhaps for you, it means gauging what other opportunities, resources, or actions might be more beneficial. As you're ready, and you can stay in your final rest for as long as you want. There's no need to move out of it at this point if you're not ready. But whenever you are ready, we're going to start with just small movements in the fingers and toes. Perhaps lengthening the inhale, extending out the exhale, 2, maybe 3 cycles. Eventually, your movements move into the wrists and ankles, and then up past the elbows and knees into the hips and shoulders. Or eventually, maybe you come into a long, full body stretch, reaching the hands over the head, pointing the toes away from the midline. And then exhaling, you're going to come up to seated. Maybe you roll over onto your side body and pause for a minute first, or maybe you roll all the way up immediately. Whatever works best for you.
As you make your way into any comfortable seated pose, perhaps that's even on a chair, or if you stay in the seated pose that you've already been in, as you come together, settle the physical body again. Notice the breath. The eyes might be open, the eyes might be closed, it's up to you. You can keep the hands palms down on your legs. You can bring them together and place them at the sternum, or I like to place the hands layered over my heart. You choose what's best for you. Taking another inhale here. Exhale. Gently lower the chin towards the chest, lengthening the space between the base of the skull and the upper back. Taking a moment to notice again what it is you're feeling at this time, and perhaps bringing in a thought of gratitude for yourself for exploring a practice, for anyone else in your life currently, for any other situation in your life that is bringing a sense of equanimity, balance, coherence for you. And then finally, saying a silent thank you to the ancients in India and Southeast Asia that were willing to do the work and discover this practice, and then even willing to share it across the globe and across generations so that we could benefit today. Inhale here. Exhale. Om Shanti. Peace. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic rest of your day.